Hi, everybody. Welcome to San Francisco Ballet's Meet the Artist conversation. I'm Jenny Scholik, and I am your host for today's Meet the Artist talk. For those of you here in San Francisco, you know that these conversations normally happen immediately before a performance in the War Memorial Opera House. But this year we've had to move so many things online, including these conversations. The conversation you're about to see was recorded in late April or early May when we conducted in-depth interviews with each of our newly promoted soloist and principal dancers. We hope that these conversations will give you some insight into their journey, their training, and how they've gotten to where they are. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and thank you so much for your support of San Francisco Ballet. Thank you, Wona, for joining us today to do this Meet the Artist interview. It's been really fun. I've gotten the chance this week to talk to several of the dancers who've recently been promoted and get to know you guys a little bit and share your stories with some of our audience members. So I'm really thrilled we get to do that. And of course, so many congratulations on your promotion to principal dancer. It's super exciting. Um, I want to start by just sort of acknowledging that this is a weird time that we are in. We are doing this interview by Zoom instead of in person. I would much rather be doing it in person. But where are you in the world right now? How are you holding up?
Yeah, currently I got here about a week ago, so I'm in quarantine at home. I can go out for a week more, but I'm doing great. It's nice to be home.
You have like your mom cooking for you and stuff, getting to, yeah, home cooked meal is always a nice thing. Where I know I follow you on Instagram, so I know you have a little dog who's very, very cute. Where is he right now? Did he come with you?
Yes, no, he didn't come with me. Yeah, that's the one thing I'm sad about, to be home.
He's back in San Francisco. All right. Um, have you been dancing much as you've been home or taking a little bit of a break? What's that looked like for you during this time?
Taking classes like 3 times a week or more sometimes. But yeah, it's really amazing the Zoom classes we are doing. It feels like we're still working together and it's really motivating.
Yeah, it's nice to still be able to kind of all see each other and come together. But okay, but the time difference. Like, are you still taking like San Francisco Ballet's company class in Korea, or are there classes like on Korean time that
So
you're doing?
when I was back in San Francisco, took I took those Zoom classes, like live classes, but here I can't, so I'm taking classes with recorded videos on YouTube or Facebook. Yeah, it still feels the same.
It's good. Yeah, I've been helping San Francisco Ballet School do their Zoom classes, and we have one student who's been zooming in from Asia, and every time I see her, I just think it is 2 in the morning. Like that is serious dedication. Like I loved ballet when I was dancing, but not enough to get up at 2 in the morning to take class. So I'm glad you're getting some sleep along with class. So I want to kind of go back to the very beginning. You're in Korea now. I imagine that the story starts there, and let our audience kind of get to know you and a little bit about your training and how you got to San Francisco. So, take us all the way back. How did you first get into dance? Where did you start dancing?
I started learning ballet from small ballet studio in the city I grew up. When I was 7, I think, my mom and grandma just sent me to ballet studio because I love any sports and just like running around. I was very active. So that's how I started, and I continued training there until 9. And I decided that I wanted to be a professional dancer. So my family moved to Seoul for me so I can get better training and I can get in the art school. So
Mm-hmm.
art school when I was 13 and I continued training there until 15. It was I taught ballet like Russian style, Vaganova style since I started ballet in Korea. And then in 2015, I believe, I was 15 and it was first year in Art High School for me. And I wanted to go to school in America or Europe because I've always wanted to go to ballet company in America or Europe. So my mom and I started searching some auditions for school, and we found a San Francisco Ballet summer program. And it was actually amazing and surprising that I got in the audition because we found that audition a day before the due date that we had to give them the video.
Oh
So
my
we
goodness.
yeah, so we filmed the video that day, and I had to do everything on point shoes, like bar and center, which I've never done before. But
Because that's not really typical, right? For Russian training, you usually take class in flat shoes. And in
yeah,
the States, often it's more sort of balancing influenced that you'll at least do center on point or sometimes the whole class. So the requirement for the audition tape was the whole thing.
we just booked a small studio, and somehow I managed it to just make all the stuff by myself and just kind of did it. And my mom filmed and edited all the video, so it was not a great quality, but we sent it, and I did not expect me to get in at all, but I did, and even got a scholarship. So
It worked out. It all worked out. Sometimes I guess it means you don't always need the most professional audition tape, right, to see the talent. I
yeah.
want to ask one thing, and then I want to come back around to San Francisco Ballet School. What, here in the United States, kind of like every little girl when they're like 3 or 4 years old, their mom puts them in ballet class, and you like, it's like creative movement. You like wear your little tutu and you run around and you like dance to music. Is it like that in Korea as well? Like, what is the kind of like ballet culture for like kids in Korea?
I did in Korea as a kid, definitely, but it wasn't like that around like teenager. When you get into teenager, they want you to study like typically something like that, but it's getting more and more in these days. Even like adults wants to learn ballet, so yeah, but like all the moms want their girls to learn ballet, I think.
Yeah, when you're little, right? But yeah, then it's really, I think that's true here too, right? Once you get into kind of 13, 14,
Yeah,
it gets more serious. Like if you're going to keep doing it, it becomes a lot more serious than,
yeah. And I remember my primary school had like ballet classes too. So
yeah, it's good. It's good. So you send in your audition tape, you're 15, you come to the summer program. Was that kind of your first experience really dancing outside of Korea, or had ballet already kind of taken you around the world in different ways?
it was in a way, but I did a lot of international competition.
Mhm.
So I was a little bit more comfortable, but also I've never trained ballet outside of country, so it was very new.
And did you come by yourself, or did your mom come for the summer? What was that like?
My mom came with me for like a week before we started the school, so kind of like sent me out with like the dorm and everything. But after that week, I was all by myself.
That must have been an adjustment. So were you out at like like SF State, or were you in Jackson for that first
I was in
summer?
that. Yeah,
So you were like cooking for yourself and all of that kind of,
yeah,
how was that? Did
that
you
was
take it, or
very,
was it a little challenge?
yeah, just cooking for myself. I've never cooked before. I came here, so that was definitely a hard thing because after school we're all just exhausted. So I was just not eat or just eat outside every day. But I started to get used to it and I started cooking with friends and it become like one of the fun things to do.
That's nice. And you were only 15, so had you already finished kind of high school, or were you still doing school as well when you first got here?
After I got from the program, I quit my school and came here. And year after, in the summer, I finished my high school.
Okay. So you were pretty close to done with your academic school at that point anyway. So you spent 2 years in the school here, 1 year in level 8 and 1 year as a trainee. Is that right? Yeah. Um, what were some of the highlights of that time for you? What are some things that kind of stand out in your head?
In my first year, I got to do Corsair and Parish's piece in the student showcase, and that was definitely something that made me trainee or yeah. And it was very big for me. Like I was very shy and I had no friends at first, but I after we got to do that piece, everyone started kind of noticing me. So yeah, it was really great piece. So and after that year as a trainee, we got to do a lot of pieces. We did Miles' piece, and I got to do Donkey Pas de Deux and Serenade. Yeah, I did a lot of pieces. It was very amazing.
Yeah, you got a lot of performing opportunities in those couple of years. Do you I've chatted actually with some of the school staff, and they also said, the moment when we really knew there was something special about Wona was that Parish Maynard piece at Showcase. All of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh my goodness! Like, look at that girl." Do you feel like you're someone who really comes alive on stage? Like, do you prefer performing to rehearsing, or are you someone who like loves to go into class and be in the studio but gets a little nervous on stage? Like, do you prefer one to the other?
I prefer to be on stage. In the studio, I'm kind of just like quiet, doing my own thing, and yeah, I'm more expressive when I'm dancing
Mm-hmm.
than I'm just talking or rehearsing, something like that. So that definitely made all the steps and the people in the school noticing me.
Yeah, it's. I always think it's interesting because I feel like it's not true for everyone, but for a lot of professional dancers, it's like that, right? Like you're the kinds of dancers who really just want to be out on stage and like have that finished thing, like I didn't dance professionally. I was someone who loved to be in the studio. Like I
Really?
got so yeah, I loved it. I loved rehearsing. I loved class. I liked, but like put me on stage and I would freeze up, right? But I think for professionals, it's like you get on stage and that's when it all kind of clicks together, right? That's what, like, when that magic.
When, especially like when people see me on stage and just like in normal life, they're like, I don't know how you do that on stage and in normal life so calm and like quiet and on stage like crazy. But it's more for me like that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I do. I think it's true for a lot of professional dancers that there's like that magic that happens, but that it transforms somehow. So I it makes sense to me that some of those moments that really stood out you as a student, as a trainee, are those moments when you got on stage and performed at Showcase and toured and all of that. So you joined the company. You skipped the apprentice year right into the corps in 2018. Can you talk a little bit about what that transition was like? That summer that you joined was a very kind of weird time when we were all preparing for Unbound and there were 12 new ballets being created and kind of nothing was normal right then for the company. But what was that like for you, kind of stepping in as a brand new corps member?
Um, it was really hard to start with Unbound as a new member of the company, I think, because we started with created all these ballets, and obviously we are not going to the principal part or something like that because they're only using few people for each ballets. So it was just, especially I was doing a lot in trainee years, and then it goes from that to kind of nothing was hard because we were just in the back learning stuff and not really dancing for 3 or 4 months. But I got used to it and I tried to do my own thing in the back, trying to just do it in the back. And yeah, that kind of worked out. But it was a weird one.
Yeah, it must be hard. I imagine that as someone who loves to perform, our schedule can be hard regardless, right? Where we're doing all this rehearsal over the summer and then you don't start performing till Nutcracker. But it must have been especially hard that year where it was just all of this kind of creation all summer.
for for 4 months or 5 months. Yeah, we didn't even have tours, so we're just in the studio for 5 months.
Yeah. And it was so intensive too, it was like you were just with one choreographer all day long, every day for, yeah, like 4 months. But we did a few other things. We'll come back to Unbound. We did a few other things that year that you did get some kind of early opportunities to show everyone what you could do. So um, I remember Nutcracker, well, both the Dewdrop or the sort of the Sugar Plum Fairy and you did the Grand Pas de Deux that first year, right?
I wasn't sure.
I could have sworn I saw you do. Must have been the next year. So you did Sugar Plum that first year, uh, and then Bluebird in Sleeping Beauty, and a variety of fairy or two, I assume as well. Um, what were those kind of sort of super classical, those sort of first opportunities like? How did you find out that you were doing Sugar Plum, for example?
Everything was after the Thanksgiving break, so it was kind of a last minute test,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very nervous and very surprised that I was in rehearsal for every single like flowers rehearsal, so I kind of already knew how it's going and stuff. So it was hard. I was very excited and I was very happy to do it. And I think I had a great time on stage. Yeah, everyone was very supportive. Yeah, it was a great experience
That's,
to
that's
do that.
fun. And yeah, you just said, and I am sort of, I feel like you were promoted to soloist so quickly that I sort of forgot that, like, that first year, of course, you were also doing all of the corps de ballet roles, right? You're out there doing flower and snow for kind of every single show. And then what was that like? I only did it for 1 year, really, but transitioning back and forth between corps de ballet parts and then suddenly a soloist part.
Mm,
Is it hard?
it was. But also as a core, like you kind of know the whole ballet, so that kind of helped, I think, because you already know what's going on and you just see it every day in the rehearsal. So
Yeah.
that it wasn't like completely new for me to learn all these roles, and it was great that I got to do classical ballet because that's what I'm good at. So that was it. That was good.
Felt comfortable in that pretty quickly. Yeah. So you also okay, so you feel like you are particularly good at classical ballet, but you also do a lot of other kinds of dance these days. One of those early opportunities was you did get to do the Waltz Girl and Serenade, which is classical, but it's balancing. It's a little different. Um, which you'd also done in your showcase performance the year before. So, what was that like? Was it one show or two shows? What was that opportunity like to go out there and do that on that big opera house stage?
I think like one show, and I I remember I didn't get to do a lot of rehearsal, but I've already done it, so I was comfortable, and I thought I'd be fine. But before I went on stage, I was so nervous. It was so different to do it on in opera house than like showcase, student showcase. Yeah, I was very nervous, but I did it. It was great.
And the live orchestra too. That's really different, I would think as well for that one. I mean, the music is so gorgeous, but
I also
you get
got
to
to girls in Serenade, so
mm,
that was fun.
yeah, that is a fun part. So, end of the season kind of rolls around. We finally get to Unbound that year, and it was a crazy 3 weeks for everyone. And kind of right there at the end, you got thrown in more or less to Dwight Rhoden's Let's Begin at the End. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how did you see that coming? How much rehearsal did you get? I think that was a big moment for our audience to sort of see you in a principal role and be like, who was that girl? I was sitting next to someone for that show, actually. And she looked at me and goes, who? What? I've never. Who is Wona? And I was like, yeah, she's a first year core member. Like, you haven't probably heard of her before. But what was that like from your perspective?
I could kind of feel it that like everyone was like, "Who is that girl doing?" Yeah. So I luckily I got to do some rehearsal back in the rehearsal in July, August.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, of course I was in the creation part, so I watched how it created, and it was kind of yeah. I rehearsed a few times back in that time, and we got the Unbound programs, and I I would say I kind of saw that coming because Frances was injured and she was in pain and she's going through a lot of pieces. So I kind of tried to be prepared, but it was also like the last week of the season and nothing happened like in 2 weeks before that. So I was I was relaxed. I was like, I'm done for this season, kind of like that. And I watched the dress rehearsal, I think, and Helgi came up to me and he said, "You know that you're gonna be doing the second show, which is like 2 days after, 2 days later." And I was like, "No, I've never heard of that." And he said, "You have to do it because Francis is injured." So we we got rehearsal the next day, and I kind of did and stuff with everyone and with Angelo, my partner, and the next day I had to perform.
Nerves of steel. Were you nervous, or was there just so much adrenaline that
I was scared and nervous. I remember I was crying. I was so scared.
like I still have those nightmares, right? Those like anxiety dreams where you I don't know if you have these, but right, like basically Helgi comes up to you and is like, you have to go on stage and like do this thing, and you're like, I don't have any idea what that. I don't know the part. I don't know the choreography. Like it's literally a nightmare, but you did it. You made it through.
There was like a lot of stage scenery there. Like
Mhm.
we had to go through the doors, and like which door I have to go through, like when I have to go through the door. It was yeah, it was crazy, but everyone helped me so much, and
And it was a beautiful performance. You made it through with flying colors. So pretty quickly after that, end of that book, I mean, the next week, essentially, right? You were promoted to soloist. Can you tell us how that happened? How did Helgi let you know?
mm, I remember it was the last day of the season, and also Masha was leaving that year, so it was like her last class. So we were celebrating that, and after class, Helgi came on stage. So of course we thought that he would say something about Masha, something like that, and he said he said that, and then after that he promoted me with other two dancers. Just,
So your first soloist season, that was 2019, was also really eventful. You didn't get to just like do a couple like bluebirds and some soloist roles and like take a year off. You had some pretty like high stakes stuff come right at you. So of course, I think the two big ones that our audience members will remember were your debuts as Kitri in Don Quixote and as Aurora in The Sleeping Beauty. So, kind of the same question. Can you tell us a little bit about your preparation for both of those parts?
um, so to go in ballet was unexpected. I didn't rehearse it in July to November this time because I wasn't casted originally, but some principals got injured, so they kind of threw me in. Especially Donkey, I only had 3 weeks or so, so I was just busy learning steps and just like yeah, cleaning things up. I was very busy.
Done Petrie before as a guest artist, right? So you sort of had some of it in your body at least.
Yeah, I've done all the main variations and the pas de deux next three. So steps were in my body kind of, but all these details, acting and just transition and some pas de deux stuff was not there. So kind of first week I tried to learn stuff in the first week, and through second week to third week we focusing on acting a lot.
Mhm. And for Don Q, that was a new partnership for you, right? You hadn't really danced with Joseph Walsh before that. How does that make it even more kind of nerve wracking to go in with a new partner than otherwise?
I feel like new kind of new member in the company. I was scared to partner principal dancer, to be honest. But
Now the new boys are going to come in and they're going to be like, we're so scared of partnering Wona. She's a principal dancer.
yeah, but he was so nice, and also Francis helped me. They both helped me a lot, and he talked to me a lot about how we're gonna do it, and he kind of planned all for me. So yeah, it was so nice. He was such a great partner. I
Yeah,
really
he's a nice.
don't know anything about partnering. Yeah.
And then for Aurora, it's a really different part. I mean, they're both big story ballet, ballerina roles, but they're so different in terms of both the acting and the dancing, right? I mean, Kitri's so explosive and tricks and all the kind of big stuff, and Aurora is so kind of it's footwork and it's delicate, right? It's like a different kind of dancing. Did you find one or the other kind of harder, less, more challenging, less challenging? Which way do you kind of lean?
I, I thought that I would be more comfortable with Donkey, but I was so much more comfortable with Sleeping Beauty. I had more time, but a Sleeping Beauty was just like pure classical techniques, and princess, you just need to be elegant and just be princess. Donkey was definitely more challenging, as there are some more harder steps, harder partnering, and more acting.
Yeah. Yeah, Aurora's kind of just a princess the whole time, right? She just has to be like beautiful and happy.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, like that Rose Adagio is notoriously really, really hard. How did you approach? And it's like right there at the beginning, right? You like enter, you do a variation, and you like go into that Rose Adagio. How did you mentally prepare for that? Did you find it challenging?
It was because in the studio, it was not a problem doing it in the studio. I was not nervous. There was no pressure. I was pretty much comfortable with everything. And it's in the beginning, so you're not tired. You're kind of fresh. So it was not so much hard. But on stage, I freaked out. I was so nervous. It's like the first thing you do on stage, and it's like all balance.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard, but I think it got better the more I did.
Yeah, it's kind of I think of that when it's sort of like etudes in a way, right? There's no hiding. Like like everyone in the audience knows if it doesn't go right. Whereas I feel like with Don Q, it's kind of like yeah, they're big steps and they're hard and like if you like miss a fouette turn, like people will sort of know, but you can like fake your way out of it in some ways. Whereas like the Rose Adagio, like you're on your leg or you're
I do balance and I go a little bit back and people see that. You're like, I'm like I know.
not making it better. Stop. Yeah. Yeah. You can like hear it when you're in the, I mean, when I watch, I hold my breath like the whole time. Like until Aurora is like through those balances, I'm like completely freaked out. So yeah, you know. All right. So this year, we come into the season, we have this weird short season that, you know, we all were so sad to see end the way it did. But what were some of the highlights for you that you did get to dance?
Yeah, I got to do some few beautiful ballet, even though we had to stop. So I got to dance Grandpa Classic in opening night gala. It was awesome. I was very happy to be just to be on stage with all these amazing dancers. I was very inspired and honored, and it was definitely hard and there was some pressure, but we did Grandpa Classic in San Ballet tour earlier this season, and I was hoping that I could dance it again. So I was very happy to dance it in gala.
Had you had you danced that before Sunbat? Like, had you done that in competitions or anything, or was it sort of new to you?
I've only done the variation. I've never done it. It was the first time. Yeah, in program 2 and 3, I did Bespoke, Infinite Ocean, San Francisco Ballet, and Etudes as a core. And I I love dancing Sandpaper Ballet and Infinite Ocean. Um, I haven't really done sort of dramatic ballet so
Mm-hmm.
much. Infinite Ocean was one of that kind of ballet,
Yeah.
so I enjoyed dancing it so much. It was a good experience for me.
Yeah, and you did Yuan Yuan Tan's part in that, is that right? Uh, is it as scary as it looks to jump off of that ramp at the end, or do you feel faith that someone's gonna catch you and you're gonna be okay?
Okay, and then the first time I did it, I screamed. Yeah, and but after that one time, I was it was so much fun doing it.
I always think that like it would be kind of fun, I have to say. And then you got to do the butterfly, right, for opening night of Midsummer, which was also closing night, unfortunately. Did you know when you went out on stage that that was going to be
Yeah,
it?
I think everyone heard that news like right before the show.
Mm-hmm.
We were not sure, but it was almost sure, so we were all kind of like it would be our first show and last show. So I think everyone was giving it all, and everyone was tried. Everyone just tried to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, what a weird night it must have been for everyone on stage. Yeah.
Yes, yes, we got to that one show.
Well, we're planning to bring it back next year, so everyone will get a chance to get another couple of shows under their belts of that one.
Mhm.
Um, so the season ends. We're all sheltering in place wherever we are in the world. Um, but Helgi did decide to do this round of promotions. So, can you tell me about how he told you and what you were up to when he called?
Mhm. I was I was at home sitting on the couch in my PJ, and I got a call, like FaceTime call from Helgi. So I was like, I was bummed out for a few seconds. I think I thought he made a mistake by just calling me, or that he just took the FaceTime or whatever. So I was just like staring at the phone for a few seconds, and I was like, okay, I have to get this FaceTime. So I got on the phone with him, and he was just asking me how I'm doing and just checking how I'm doing and stuff, and he wanted me
You
through the picture.
think that that was going to happen, via FaceTime and in your pajamas?
No, not at all. I really thought that was a mistake.
You're not the first person to say that when I've asked this question. He's FaceTiming me, and I really, that had never happened before. Had you already made plans to come home to Korea before? Because it was right around the same time that you left, right? Had you already made plans to come home before he called?
And when he called, yes, but I've already had a flight ticket
Mhm.
to home during summer break. So when that happened, when we stopped working, I changed my flight tickets a little bit sooner.
Nice. Were your parents really excited for you?
Yeah, because that home was a day before I leave San Francisco. Yeah.
It's a good coming home little gift for your parents and all that. Do they get to see you dance much? Have they gotten to come to the States and see you perform over the last few years?
Yeah, my second year they came to watch Nutcracker. Yeah, and if we knew that I would do Donkey and Sleeping Beauty, they would come to watch that, but we didn't know that.
So you have accomplished so much at a very young age. You make the rest of us feel like we're, getting old and haven't done anything in our lives. You're like, what, 20?
Oh, I'm turning 21.
So you're turning 21. Um, you are already a principal dancer. You have a long, long career ahead of you. What are some of the things you hope to accomplish kind of down the road?
Mm. more emotional pieces or contemporary styles. I like to do the ballet. I've done classical ballet a lot, but I love dancing classical ballet, so I'll continue
Yeah.
dancing. But more
Would
like
you
to make it more deeper as like part, emotional part. So
do you ever think about what might be next? Do you think about choreography or teaching or any of that, or are you just totally focused on your dancing for now?
mm, I would love to choreograph and things, but I'm really bad at it. So maybe that's the one thing I should work on a little bit more. But I guess I'll say teaching actually.
So, my last question, and we'll wrap this up. When when you're not quarantined and when you're not in the studio, what do you like to do? What are some of the things you like to do outside of ballet?
I like to go out meet my friends that I haven't seen for a long, long time. And I'd like to go like painting a lot in at home or outside. And
Are those your paintings behind you?
yeah, yeah. I've been doing a lot of painting because I don't really have things to do.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Wona. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. I know our audience members are so excited to hear about our newest principal dancer and learn a little more about you. And congratulations again.
Thank you.